Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Setoodeh. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll talk with Ramin Setoodeh about our annual Power of Young Hollywood issue and what it takes for rising stars to make the cut. Then we'll hear from Gene Maddaus, Variety's senior media reporter. He'll talk about what is shaping up as the priority to-do list for leaders of the Writers Guild of America. Believe it or not, a new round of AMPTP contract talks are just around the corner. Before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. August 21st is the launch date for the ESPN standalone streaming app. WrestleMania and other WWE live events are moving to the ESPN app next year, after most recently being on Peacock. No subscriber numbers for you. Disney is co-signing with Netflix on the idea of not releasing quarterly subscriber numbers for its streaming platforms anymore. We'll still get updates, just not quarterly. And finally, all roads lead through Disney+. Hulu will be formally integrated into the Disney Plus app. That means you won't have to back out of Disney Plus to launch Hulu anymore. This is a big deal because every streamer and studio is trying to offer viewers seamless movement within their walled gardens of content. Our analysis of Disney's fiscal third quarter and much more can be found on Variety.com right now. There was some softness in the numbers that spooked Wall Street. Disney shares were down this morning in the first few hours of trading. Now we turn to conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Today I'm so happy to have my friend and my partner in journalism, Ramin Setoodeh, Variety co-editor-in-chief, join me. Ramin gives us the lowdown on how we pull together every year our Young Hollywood issue. This year, singer Tyla and actors Sam Nivola and Finn Wolfhard join a proud list of folks that we have spotlighted as rockets to watch. Ramin Setoodeh, my co-editor-in-chief for 3 years. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Cynthia. Yes, we celebrated our 3-year anniversary of running Variety together on August 1st. It's very, very exciting for me to be on the podcast and to talk about our Young Hollywood issue, which is out on newsstands this week.
It's one of our biggest of the year. It's one of our glossiest of the year. And Ramin, 100%, this is your baby. Tell me the origin story of Power of Young Hollywood.
It's a chance for our editors at Variety to celebrate the future of Hollywood. So every other week of the year, we're obviously covering all the big business stories in the industry and what is happening and moguls in the industry and the decision makers in the industry. And this is the issue that looks forward to the people in the entertainment industry who will be running Hollywood in the future. And some of them already are. Some of them have mini empires and are producing art and work that are reaching millions and millions of fans, like our 3 cover stars. We have Tyla on the cover, written in a profile by Tanya Garcia, one of our music reporters. We have Sam Nivola from The White Lotus in a really wonderful profile by Ethan Chanfield, where they went to an East Village restaurant and had a very long, engaging conversation. And then we have Finn Wolfhard in a long-form profile by Tatiana Siegel that started actually in Sundance earlier this year. Tatiana's been working on this profile for the last 8 months, and he talks about Stranger Things ending and the final scene in Stranger Things. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this story.
Just to use this year's class as an example, Tyla has been on our radar for more than a year, long before she was wearing sand at the Met Ball. Finn Wolfhard, one stat that stuck with me from Tatiana's profile is that inside of a couple of years, at the age of 22, he has made 17 features in his downtime from 5 seasons of Stranger Things.
Sam Nivola talks about at the age of 21, he has a production company and he wants to make his own movies, which I found to be very impressive because when I was 21, I wasn't thinking about that. But some of our previous Power of Young Hollywood alumni include Zendaya was on the cover, Shawn Mendes was on the cover, we had Maluma, we had Megan Thee Stallion. And it's been really exciting seeing the careers of some of our cover stars evolve and watching them get even bigger and bigger. since we profiled them.
Listeners, I just want to stress that the selection of this is something that you work on all year. What makes somebody stand out to you? There is that intangible something. Can you try to define it for us?
We spend a lot of time discussing who should be on the cover of this issue. We do a lot of editorial meetings, people brainstorm, people pitch. For this issue in particular, I always ask a lot of our reporters who are in their 20s to weigh in and to tell me who they think represents the future of Hollywood and who they think is cool. And often they'll come up with names, and sometimes I'm not as familiar with some of the names that they pitch, but they always have really good ideas and really good suggestions for this issue. In addition to our 3 cover stars, we also have our impact list. So we look at the actors who are really making a difference, the producers that are really making a difference, the artists that are really making a difference. And for the first time, we have our new leaders list in this issue. So we have 41 executives under the age of 40 who are making big changes and big strides in Hollywood. And then we have our 10 assistants to watch. So this issue is full of names that you should know. Maybe you're not familiar with every single name in this week's issue, but you will be for sure in the months and years to come.
And the new leaders is also a very competitive process. We've had incredible people come through that. And it really is something that we all take very seriously. We talk about, we argue about sometimes. Again, I cannot believe the number of career opportunities and avenues. Everybody is the Finn Wolfhard model of doing so much at such a young age.
I think what's really changed that for this generation is the way in which they can express their artistic point of view and their work on social media. Tyla released Water online and then became a huge phenomenon. And now she's, released her first album and was at Coachella and she was at Paris Fashion Week. And so she's obviously become huge, but without the access to being able to release her music online, it used to be the avenues were very limited. And so now you can have a lot of our artists talk about the way in which they're doing their art on social media or posting their work on Instagram or YouTube and getting people excited about their work and getting deals through those means. So it's interesting to see the way in which the talent in our issue, they've come up and their pathway to success is very, very different and varied than it used to be.
And it's very interesting too, if you read the profiles, each of them talk about their relationship with social media, their relationship with fans, and of course, no 2 people come to it at the same way. So it really is a fascinating glimpse. It's a fantastic issue. It really is like, watch this space and look at these names, because in 10 years' time, they're going to be running the business. Not surprisingly, Power of Young Hollywood is one of our most banging parties of the year. What are you looking forward to at this year's event on Thursday in LA?
I really, really love this party. It is a great networking opportunity and it's a great chance for everyone on our lists to meet in person. And I just have such great memories of the years in which we've done this party and the way in which we've brought everyone in the industry together to celebrate the future of Hollywood. And the red carpet is always really, really fun. Angelique Jackson will be hosting our red carpet live show and encourage everyone to check that out.
I remember very well last year, Sabrina Carpenter was one of our honorees, and she was just ascendant at that moment. It's a cliche, folks, but there is something about star power. There is something about that indefinable it. And Sabrina Carpenter had, as she walked into our event, and just watching how she could command the room and turn heads.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Variety, and I want to thank Ramin, and I want to thank my mom and my dad for getting me to Earth, and I want to thank my team for how hard they work, and myself for how hard I work.
Ramin, thank you for all that you've done to keep us on the razor's edge of the cutting edge. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you very much.
Next up, Gene Maddaus and I put our heads together to read some tea leaves related to the Writers Guild of America. The WGA West is preparing to elect a new president next month. And believe it or not, it's almost time for AMPTP contract talks again. There's not much suspense around the WGA election. Gene explains why. Gene Maddaus, thanks for joining me.
Happy to do it.
Well, Gene, the story you filed this week, it was literally a matter of time, just as sure as the leaves turn in the fall in the east, there as the calendar starts to nudge towards 2026. Hard to believe the Guild contract talks are coming up next year. You wisely went out and shook the trees and talked to people about how are people feeling. Gene, tell us what's going on with the WGA West election for president and officers and some board seats that will be held in September.
Sure. The current president, Meredith Steam, is termed out. She served 2 terms, and you can't serve 3 in a row. So she is termed out. The incumbent vice president, Michelle Mulroney, is the only candidate for president. So she will be the president of the Guild once the election is concluded.
Right there, though, the fact that Michelle is running unopposed, does that indicate that this is a fairly rare moment of harmony, that there's no competing vision of what the Guild needs to do in the coming contract in the coming years?
It is interesting. All these different guilds have different cultures. And for instance, IATSE, Matt Loeb was just reelected president by acclamation. They didn't even take a vote. And he will have that job until he dies or until he decides he wants to do something else, because that's just how that works. But in the WGA, they do take the elections quite seriously, and they do have a sort of pro-competition policy. We really would like to see at least 2 candidates in these races, and they have a committee whose job is to go out and find candidates if they don't have enough people volunteering to do it. This year is unusual in that they only have 1 candidate for president, and it's Michelle Mulroney. But the other candidates, the other contests, they do have multiple candidates for.
One of the big issues that people are going to be talking about is that there has been such a sharp drop in employment, and you have data in your story to show it. Can you talk about that dynamic and how you think that's going to play out in this election and when the contract talks next year?
One of the candidates put it in his statement. There's 3 issues, and it's jobs, jobs, jobs. The peak of peak TV in 2022, there's almost 7,000 paid writing jobs in TV and film. And now it's down to 5,200. And that's only in 2 years. And that is as low as it's been since 2013. So there was just a massive buildup over 10 years, and it's all evaporated in the last 2 years. And so that is just the overriding factor in everything, just a huge issue. It's not news. We've known for a couple of years that the industry was struggling in a serious way, but it's just obviously reconfirmed by the WGA data and by just what people are saying and feeling and talking about.
We rode the boom, and now we are absolutely feeling the bust. It's also coming amid this seismic generational shift in the way people consume entertainment. For people that are in the business of writing long-form movies and TV show, all of this has to give them some pause in terms of long-term future. One response to the changing landscape, Mulroney and others are talking about a need to generate an organizing campaign around YouTubers, which that is a new frontier for the WGA West. The WGA East, of course, has spent a lot of time in the last 10 years organizing digital writers, and that has, not without some Sturm und Drang within that union that has, formerly been old school television writers, film writers, TV news writers, some sports writers. Let's talk specifically what they want to do in terms of a YouTube organizing drive.
It was surprising how many folks brought this up in their candidate statements, that was a focus, that they need to go look at YouTube and start talking about organizing YouTube. And you would look at YouTube and not instantly think there's a whole bunch of TV writers here waiting to be organized. Like, that's just not the format. Doesn't really look like that. But the argument is actually a lot of this stuff is written, and more of it is more and more professional. Traditionally, the concern would be these people are not making that much money compared to a TV writer, compared to a film writer.
Even 5 years ago, the economic basis for a YouTube show, there would be no world in which you could have a union contract with residuals. The money just wasn't there. But we have seen, and we report on it, almost daily in Variety, brand deals, brand money coming directly into content is changing that game.
Right. But still, if you're like a writer for Mr. Beast, like, you're not making what a TV writer is making.
You don't have a thick contract that says this is the minimum before I write 5 words. You definitely don't have that.
So I think that would be historically a concern, but not currently a concern. I think people are really focused on that as if this is what television is going to be. And if Netflix thinks YouTube is its number one competitor, then, we're organized at Netflix, but we're not organized at YouTube, and we need to be. So I think that's something that bears a lot of attention going forward.
It raises sort of a Socratic question. Are all YouTubers creators? Are all creators writers? Where's the line in the YouTuber between the writer and the performer? And does it even matter in this day and age?
And this came up a decade ago. We're trying to organize reality TV writers. What is the line you have to figure out in this complicated production process? What of that is writing? And that, because that's the part that they can represent.
And we know that there's nothing touchy at all about the question of where the writing and the directing and the producing stops. Gene, let's talk a little bit more about the health plan. It's very clear from the statements that members that are engaged know that there is a need for some serious bucks and an influx. And that's going to mean that, the guild is going to have to go to the companies and say, okay, how much are you going to kick in? And that inevitably is going to change some of the dynamic of the negotiation. What's going on here this time?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is usually when you're talking about the health and pension plan, that's something you hear coming from the employer side. The employer is the one saying, well, we'd like to give you more of a raise, but look at your health plan. It's really struggling. We're going to have to put a lot of money into the health plan. But for the union to say, we really need to focus on shoring up our health plan, to me, it sounds like expectation setting from the leadership to the members.
Well, Gene, plenty of stuff to watch here as we get into the fall. Thank you, as always, for tracking it all for us.
Yep, happy to do it.
As we close out today's episode, here are a few things we're watching for. Warner Brothers Discovery releases its second quarter earnings before the bell Thursday morning. We'll be up early with all the news. The Stand Up to Cancer TV special will be back on August 15th. Once again, it will run on more than 30 channels across the TV dial starting at 8 p.m. This year's performers include Jelly Roll, the Jonas Brothers, and Gavin DeGraw. And of course, Thursday will be a momentous day in Hollywood. Skydance Media is set to take the keys of Paramount Global as the $8 billion transaction formally closes. We'll have a special Paramount-themed episode of Daily Variety for you tomorrow, looking at the company's past, present, and future. Before we go, congrats to Nikki Kazakos. She's been promoted to VP of Global Corporate Communications for Mattel. She worked at Netflix, NBC Universal, and Discovery before joining the toy maker in 2021. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Ramin Setoodeh and Gene Maddaus. It was edited by Aaron Greenwald. Sticks, Nicks, Hick Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.